Hey, hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my very first art collab with a fellow artist, Queenimation. So we decided to trade characters and draw each other's characters. And this is her character, Aiden, and she's 16 years old. I thought she was very cute. This is my first time drawing someone else's character, and again, like I said, art collab. Also forgot to mention I sent over my character Deja to Queenimation, so if you would like to see her draw that, I will have that linked below. But the main pose is going to be this pose over here, plus that shirt. And then this is a picture of Aiden standing, and I'm going to choose one of those other poses for the secondary pose. I decided to do a second pose just because I wanted to challenge myself. I thought it would be fun, and I also wanted to do something that I thought would be a little bit more interesting, like a character sheet, which I haven't done before, and I'm really happy that I decided to do it. And I feel like a big reasoning behind that is because it turned out well. But a little bit more background on Aiden. So Aiden, like I said, she's 16, she goes to boarding school, she lives with her adoptive father, likes ballet, is protective of her family and friends, and likes nails. Aiden is also a little bit more reserved and not necessarily shy. She'll talk more around people that she's comfortable with, but she's not necessarily talkative either. Another detail that I kind of liked was knowing that Aiden really likes ballet, but she doesn't have as much time for it because she switched schools. So it just kind of gives more of a realistic feel to her character. I realized at this point that I didn't draw in the initial facial features for both poses. So I insert a little time lapse, as you can see, and I hope that doesn't throw you guys off too much. I tried to throw that in there to ease the transition, but as you can see, I'm just making some adjustments to Aiden's face. I had a little bit of difficulty with just trying to make sure my sketch actually looks like Aiden, and also combining that with trying to make sure that the drawing is still in my style. So whenever I look at a drawing, I kind of unintentionally copy it in a way, because that's pretty much how I learned to draw, just by copying images and trying to make my drawings look like them. So I had a little trouble trying not to copy the same style as the reference. So because of that, sometimes you'll see me referencing my own art or sketches in my videos to get a certain look that may or may not be more stylized, but at the end, I feel like I got the drawing to look like Aiden in the reference, but in my own style, without having to intensely stare down and study my own art, which I see as a win. Now we are on to the secondary pose. So for the secondary pose, I decided to go for the one in the black shirt, and I realized I really like this pose because of the shoulders and also the arm that's on the hip. So I had to make sure to get that placement right, but I did enjoy doing that. I start with the head for most of my poses. It just makes things a lot easier, and I find that the poses turn out more balanced, if that makes sense. And yeah, I start with simple shapes, and I like to just try to overlap them, and then from there, after I make the simple shapes, I basically just connect everything with simple lines. It's definitely easier to do this with a reference than without one. Yeah, I made this pose a little bit smaller because it's supposed to be more towards the background, while the main pose is supposed to be towards the foreground, if that makes sense. And yeah, I'm really happy I was able to go below the hips as well. I think I drew all the way down to a little bit past the knees, showing a little bit of the upper calves. So I'm really happy it turned out okay. For the hair on the second pose, I decided to go with the fro, just because I feel like it would add a little bit more of an interesting look. I wanted to show a different, I guess, version, if you will, of Aiden, and I really like how this turned out. I did very simple gestures for the hair, and then again for the face, I forgot to show the freaking facial features, so I threw in another little time lapse that just passed by. But if you've seen a few of my videos, you kind of know the gist of how I draw faces, so yeah. Something else that I really like is how Aiden has multiple pictures of herself, so you know, you have the expression sheet, you have different poses, you have a full body standing, some up close pictures. I really like all of that, and it makes me feel like the character was really well thought out, and that's something I definitely want to incorporate with my own characters. So this is pretty much how I have everything looking. The lines are still pretty sketchy. I drew in the clothes, they were very simple. I can do a video on clothes, I'm still practicing myself. But I think I can do a simple clothing tutorial, if that makes sense. With Aiden, I tried to also make sure to pay attention to small details like her choker and her jewelry, which is a little bit more on the minimal side, so yeah. But at this point we are into the coloring part, so there's even a color palette for Aiden, which I really like. Like I said, I feel like Aiden was really well thought out, and I don't know, maybe I'm just not used to making characters, which yeah, that's pretty much the case. But I will definitely keep certain things like this in mind because it will make the character creation process a lot easier. So having the color palette, the poses, the clothing colors, etc. All of that I feel like is very necessary for the character creation process. It makes sense, you know? Also, I really like Aiden's style because it's kind of a mix of loungy, sporty type style, but also with kind of like the cute ballet or yoga type of look. I really like that. I can definitely relate to that because I have moments where I'm like, okay, I want to wear some cargo pants, something baggy, something, you know, comfortable. And then other times I'm like, I want to wear a fitted cute shirt or something like that. You know what I mean? So I really like her style. I also like the slouch. I think that's what it's called, the thing that goes over the arms. It definitely makes her look a lot more like a dancer of some sort. So yeah, I'm really over here gushing over Aiden. She's so well done. Amazing. It just inspires me so much, and it just makes me want to make even more characters. And you can always make characters without having to give them a full-on backstory. You could just draw people, you know? But this is just making me want to create more characters with more random backstories and just to make things a lot more interesting. At this point in the video, you may have noticed that I've sped things up, and that's just because it's technically double the work, and also a lot of times I just try to show my full process, but without a whole explanation, it's difficult to understand exactly what I'm doing. But I will explain a little bit more of it. Right here, I'm darkening the hair and just trying to add some more dimension and everything. There's a lot of things you will kind of see me do that I've done before in previous videos. Like now, I'm adding in the scleras, and I'm adding in some irises. Her eyes are actually purple, which I actually really like. I've been liking creating characters with eyes that are different colors that are maybe not naturally occurring. It's just more fun. It makes me think of anime characters. And here I'm coloring in the lips, adding in some blush. The blush is essential, I have to. I also added in her choker. And I kind of modified this top and I made these sleeves a little bit more see-through. I feel like that top added in a little touch of the ballet sense that I mentioned earlier that she likes. And I'm kind of just going around and starting to add some rendering into the face. I decided to keep things pretty soft with the rendering. It's what I've been doing lately. Sometimes I'll have more of a, I guess you could say, strong edge or painterly look with how I render, but lately I've kind of just been blending things more with the airbrush and just keeping things a little bit softer. Lately that's been my preference, and it's pretty easy and quick for me to do so I can focus on other things like maybe rendering the clothes. For the clothes, which you'll see a little bit later, I ended up adding in more of a cell shading type of look. And cell shading just kind of means like harder edges instead of everything being more like a gradient or blended out with an airbrush. So I've been playing around with cell shading for clothing. I'm still working on clothing folds and everything like that. That is difficult for me. Like, that's a whole nother thing to study, and sometimes I bite off more than I can chew. So yeah, I'm adding some shading to the body and just kind of where I think the clothing would add some shadows, and also recoloring some parts of the sketch to match the actual skin tone or whatever color is there. But yeah, so far I feel like the way her eyes are shaped are so pretty, and I absolutely love that. And her whole color scheme really works well together because everything's in the same or a similar color family. And again, like I said, I definitely have to put a little bit more thought into my characters. I'm still learning a lot, but I definitely am happy with the way that this turned out. This is one of my favorite drawings, and it just happens to be someone else's character, but I love this. It makes me happy looking at it. I feel like she has a lot of personality coming through, and yeah. At this point, I'm adding some finishing touches, and this is what it looks like. I added some more curly hair around her face. I pretty much added in some letters in the background for her name. It just says Aiden, and then I drew like a purple circle, and that was just for a more interesting background. But yes, this is how Aiden turned out. I am in love. I'm jealous. I love this character, and don't forget to check out Queenimation's video of my OC Deja. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you in the next one.